You're listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series.
Welcome to the studio, Supreme Court Judge David Ashton Lewis.
Well, welcome again. Gee, the last week's gone quickly, and isn't it getting warmer?
It is getting warmer. Well, it is definitions. We were talking definitions last week.
Yes.
David, the first three that we did were
transgender, woke, cancel culture, and really feelings versus truth.
Oh, I didn't think we got to feelings versus truth, but we're going to start right there, David.
Well, let's start though.
Let's move into that definition of feelings versus truth.
Look, if the truth, certain things are just observably so, but we've now moved into many areas where, well, I don't accept that. I don't accept. It's more like my saying, I don't accept that the world is round.
But there is a flat Earth society.
There is a flat Earth society, and they
have some very cunning arguments.
They do.
I absolutely love that.
And that is my truth.
Yeah.
So when you get that,
my truth. Now that's a good point to make.
Yes. Well, we did touch on it last week. So my truth is a cloak that allows you to say things that simply don't make sense. But it doesn't matter whether it makes sense because it's the way I see it.
Look, I think
I'm important.
I think it needs to be put this way. Once upon a time, it is my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's
it is my view.
Yep.
It is how I feel about the situation. Yeah. The moment you add the word truth, it adds a different level of weight.
Well, it's
to what you're having
misusing the word
say.
truth.
It is.
Truth means definite. It means it's provable, it's observable, and that's the mechanical way or the way something turns out.
So in science, there are absolutes, there are truths, and there are theories. Now,
yes.
A theory, the theory of relativity, or the theory of the way we think.
Well, here's a good one.
Yes.
Remember your physics. For every action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction.
The thing I always loved about theories were these are the rules, or these are the set of things that we observe that roughly explain that, because we can't physically see the force, or we can't physically see it in action. We can't be absolutely sure.
But theory usually is the postulating, the speculating, and it's from the theory you set up a hypothesis.
Sure.
And you then start physically testing, and you get to, I remember doing it in physics as a teenager, and that theory is a bummer.
Yes.
Because we've just shown it can't be like that.
But it was a good way of walking through the thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And so there are a number of things. Electricity is a great one.
Yes.
It is a theory, but it works.
Yeah.
How can it be a theory? Well, at the end of the day, we can't actually see those electrons flow.
No.
But it is the way. If you talk about physics, and then we talk about electricity, the way we actually teach it and the way we actually talk about it are very different. Electricity is a negative valenced component of an atom, wherein if you are studied to be an electrician,
yes.
There's positive and negative. And where do the electrons flow down? The positive.
Yes.
So it is things work in certain ways, and we see it that way.
Yes.
And we can see the effect, so therefore it is.
Well, so we looked at these things. What we never touched on, if you can remember back what we spoke about last week, all this woke, politically correct. Political correctness is a more stifling name for courtesy.
Sure.
I will be polite. I don't agree, but to be politically correct, you must now say things that a majority in the area say this is the truth.
I'm not offended by that because it's politically correct. But on the flip side of the coin, if you just wanted to be down at the pub and tell it how it is, you may very well not have been.
Well, you think 40, 50 years ago, if these really chauvinistic men said women are good for one thing, keep them in the home, do the cooking, raise the children, but don't let them fly an aircraft. Don't let them come into the workforce because they're just too emotional and stupid and can't handle it. Now, anyone who said that 50 years ago would get responses, oh, that's a pity. I don't see women like that. I don't agree with you. No, well, that's my view, because I wouldn't trust a woman as far as I could kick her.
But nowadays, you would never, ever hear that ever.
You would never say it.
Yes.
And that's called politeness, and that's correct. But like for every action, there's always an equal and opposite reaction. For pushing politeness to you, you can't and shouldn't say that. It now gets dragged out to an extreme where you cannot explain or state the truth. And because that's offending me.
And no matter how uncomfortable
Yep.
it is, we should be able to talk the truth and explain the truth.
But then someone says, but that's your truth. It's not my truth.
Well, if it's scientific fact, or if it is commonly agreed that this is the consensus, like we had some examples in the past that
Yes.
I think a media outlet stated that no, the Russians aren't sending rockets into the Ukraine, and every other media outlet in the entire world was saying, yes, they are, and here's the footage of it. Unfortunately, their truth was wrong.
Well, but then it becomes like, but this was propaganda. Those were missiles coming from wherever they wanted to come, but looking painted with the Russian flag on it. They hadn't come from Russia.
Sure.
They'd come, and you think, look, I just have to stop, because you will have an answer for everything. In other words, your truth will fly in the face of reality, will fly in the face of common sense, but you're allowed to express your truth now. Whereas 30, 40 years ago, anyone who expressed the truth like that would be kicked out of the room and told, oh, for heaven's sake, go away and grow up.
Once upon a time, and I still remember as part of the discussions at uni, you'd say, but you're an idiot.
Yes.
Now, if you said if you said that nowadays, you'd be frog marched out.
Well, you could be cancelled. So while all of this has come about to be courteous and kind, like woke, to be courteous and kind,
Don't get me
it's
wrong.
reached levels of ridiculousness. And the worst part of it, Colin, is that for certain views to get over, you have to rewrite history.
Look, I think there is always room in the world for courtesy, kindness,
Yes.
understanding, but we should be able to speak exactly what we think at the time.
Courteously, kindly, yes.
And defend it, though.
Oh, yes,
If
yeah.
your view is wrong, I am more than happy to hear your view and hear your the information that you have that I may not, and either reassess my opinion
Yes.
or decide, no, I don't believe you at this point and I'm not going to reassess my
No,
opinion.
I mean, that's the common sense approach. But unfortunately, all these areas we've looked at, the legitimation of transgenderism, today, it was always legitimated, but it was kept quiet and it was in much smaller groupings. So transgenderism, woke culture, cancel culture, one we haven't touched, diversity, equity
Well, I was
and
going for
inclusion.
that one next.
Oh, were you?
Were you?
Well, and then I don't agree with you, can lead to what we saw happen about 3 weeks ago to an American political speaker called Charlie Kirk. He got shot and killed on stage.
Terrible.
Because he was saying things that some didn't agree with. And so the attitude was, now, if I don't agree with you, I'll kill you.
Yeah, I think that's the extreme.
The best way,
It was
of
one
course.
person with a gun, but on the flip side of the coin, it does hint or drag us into...
Well, the lesser of it is cancel culture.
Correct.
I won't kill you, but I'll destroy your career.
Yeah, I agree.
So
we should be open to new ideas. We should be open to views. If someone does offend you, you say you offended me, and that person
Or you
should,
get up and leave.
Out of courtesy, say, I apologise I offended
Well,
you.
no,
It was
I
not
don't.
my intent. But if I'm going to continue explaining what
Yeah.
I had to explain, if it offends you further, please, you're free to leave.
Yeah, but not only that, I'd say you think a fair thing to say at the beginning, you're offended by what I'm speaking about. Why are you staying here?
That's
because I'm going to continue.
You're here to learn, right?
Yeah, or in many instances, well, then debate me.
Yes.
Don't threaten me. Don't use pejorative terms such as you should be cancelled, or you're a racist, or you're this, or you're that. I think we spoke once. I've noticed a lot now in news and articles. If you're on the left side, you're called a progressive or a liberal. But if you are on the conservative side, you're called right-wing. Now, right-wing is a pejorative term just like, because it related to military juntas, and Adolf Hitler, the Nazis. And if you were called, well, you're left-wing, that was socialism. So those terms became, as I've used, pejorative. They became insulting. But I've noticed now those on the left tend to get called more liberals, progressives, and on the right get called right-wing.
Yes.
And I think that has to stop.
Look, again, it's a negative connotation. It's a negative term. You're trying to infer that these people are bad or these people shouldn't be listened to. No. You should be talking about what it is about, what they have to say that is wrong or is not in the best interest of the country or not in the best interest of the majority. These are the discussions we should be having, not throwing they're right wing, they're a fascist, they're a socialist.
Well, they should be sacked.
Yeah.
I know. We've got to find a way again to get back to robust and polite
real
disagreement.
Real discussion.
Yeah, polite disagreement.
All right.
Again, that Santayana comment, we make quite a lot here, or I make it. I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
All right. Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
It's commonly known as DEI. Now, again, this is one of the ones where I observe that progressives, liberals, are all for diversity in things, equity, which is fairness, and inclusion, which means bringing everyone in. I've never heard anyone compliment the right wing for doing that. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot because I've known you for years. I know that you are a middle-of-the-road, more conservative man. You're not a great supporter of progressive, liberal, Labor, left, as am I. But you will always give that side all the airtime they want. I've noticed you and I've seen you. You will debate them. And if no one on that side or yourself can't be convinced, although I've seen you be convinced, you'll say things like, I need to go away and think a bit more about that. But many won't say it, so that leads to what we've been speaking of. You're to be cancelled because I can't get you to do and say the right thing. So diversity is the claim that we are open. You can see the contradiction coming. We are open to a diversity of views and opinions. So you could say...
Right up to the point that I don't agree with.
Yeah, right up to the point that, well, whatever. So who are you talking about? You're not talking about yourselves, whether you be left of centre or right of centre. You show no signs of supporting diversity in thinking, diversity in employment. That's just a throwaway line. Now, equity. Well, equity, as I said, is fairness. And again, when you come across these politically correct wokeisms, and it's not just the left, the right have it as well, you can say, well, I have a pretty good understanding of equity because equity is an area of the law, and you're certainly not carrying it out. If you're going to try to cancel people, you're going to try to manage and stage manage their language, that's not showing equity. Equity, if you're showing it, is really what it always was: free, open, robust, if you like, debate. Don't get into insulting. Don't get into rudeness, and don't be afraid to say, I'm afraid I've reached a point with you that I can't agree. That's called equity and fairness. And then inclusion is another form of diversity. All these diverse views, we will bring them into ourselves and promote them. We will include them in our thinking. Now, one thing right-wing fascists don't do and left-wing socialists don't do is include how many in the Nazi state were given the opportunity to go and at a public forum and say, I want to form a party that is against the National Socialist Party. Didn't exist because they are one-party states.
No.
So the same as if you marched up to the Chinese auditorium of the people and said, well, we don't agree with Communist Party philosophy. We want to form another party in China that will hold to liberal views. How long would you stay out of jail for? The same with the woke, the transgender people. I can't stand it when you disagree with me. And so politically, no, we're not going to allow an anti-transgender party. Well, that might be acceptable because the Nazi Party and the Nazi salute are outlawed in Australia.
Yes.
Now, my view on that is I think that's a breach of freedom of association, freedom of speech. So to say, all right, you Nazis, you can form the Australian Nazi Party in Australia, and I'll have enough confidence that the average Australian is wise and would never give you a hearing. And we saw it happen in 1991 in Australia when the Australian Communist Party voted to disband itself.
Wow.
And they did that when the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe fell.
Wow.
And so, and to their credit, they disbanded. I think they gave all their money to the Labor Party, but I could be wrong on that. But there's an example of decent democracy. How many Australians did I know in my life growing up in the 50s and the 60s who were, I'm a card-carrying communist, David. And there were some, but they never ever stated it openly. And because it was a danger to your job then, you could be cancelled. So this is what happens when people become totally indoctrinated in themselves and are unable to see, I could be wrong.
Well, okay.
I could be wrong.
One of the things that we wanted to move on to was trigger...
Oh, yeah.
What was the term,
Safe
David?
spaces and trigger warnings.
Yes.
Well, a trigger warning is, and we'll use it in the university sense, it does happen in the corporate sense, in government sense, but at the university walks in is going to give a lecture on, say, the Holocaust and what was done to women, Jewish women there, and now is so constrained, can't even speak the truth, because all you need to do is go to Auschwitz and walk down into the gas chambers, and there's photographs of women and of Nazi soldiers doing not nice things. And so he walks in and says, look, we're going to study now the Holocaust in Eastern Europe, and we're going to particularly focus on the concentration camp of Auschwitz. This is where about 2 million of the estimated 6 million Jewish people were killed. So I'm going to have to warn you because I'm going to have to make statements that are true. They did happen, and I've taken the records from the Nuremberg war crimes trials. Evidence. But I know if I say it, some of you might be offended. So I will give you warning as we're coming near to that I'm about to launch in, and I'll give you the opportunity to go to a safe space. Now, the safe space is usually outside the lecture. In other words, you may leave for this part of the lecture that I'm going to give. And then I'll have someone come and say, you can come back. Now, what's your response to that, Mr. Sensible Human?
Well, look, to a point, we've always had it. I mean, I think if on television, the next show you're about to watch may contain images or scenes that may be disturbing to some.
It's called censorship.
Sure. And so you actually went in knowing, do I want to see this, do I not?
Yeah.
Safe space, well, this was always personal choice, wasn't it?
It was.
I'm not happy about what's about to come that I've been warned about, or if I'm not happy about what's being said right now and I feel uncomfortable, I have the choice to leave.
Yes, you do. And then I'll check and I'll come back. So if we look at everything we've talked about last week and this week, it's nothing new. It's happened for hundreds of years. But the way it's being handled now is quite unfair.
Yes.
And is quite dangerous, because it's the first step to a police state. It's the first step to controlled speech. It's the first step to controlled way of life. And we in Western Judeo-Christian societies have always treasured freedom of speech, which is not totally free, freedom of association, which is not totally free, and freedom of friendship you're choosing. So freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of association. And we relied on, we don't need extra things done. We will be polite, we will follow it. But what modern wokeism and political correctness has, I think, done, whether it's designed to do it or by accident, is saying we're going to police it even more.
Look,
and it's not far to go from there to say we're going to tell you what you can say.
Look, there again, I had a friend of mine make these sort of statements, and it's funny how some of them stick. He can be a little conspiracy theorist. That if you think about it, in the days gone by, we're consumed with sport. In the past, it would have been going to the Colosseum and watching gladiators.
Yes.
Don't look over here while the politicians are doing this.
Yes.
We've dumbed down our news. We've done that since the 80s. We've dumbed down and made sure now we're supplying you opinions. We're not giving you the facts for you to decide for yourself what your opinion is going to be. We're seeing political parties go to elections with no real policy whatsoever and thinking they're just going to ride straight over the top.
So we're being treated as infants.
Infants.
Rather than mature men and women.
History not being taught at school anymore. There are a number of things that are basically stating that, you know what, you don't know what you need to know. We know what you need to know. And don't look over here. We've given you all the sport.
Yeah.
We've given you this. We've given you that.
You should be happy.
So while I don't subscribe to that completely, when I actually examine some of the bits and pieces that he rolled out at the time, there is some breadcrumbs of truth in all of that.
Yes. No, you're right. And society always moves forward, as I said last week. What was considered disgusting and disgraceful, pornography, in the 50s and 60s, is now considered, we're just seeing photographs of explicit sexual behaviour between a man and a woman.
Well, David, we might have to leave it there. We're out of time, and thank you very much for your time today.
Well, I hope what we have done is at least help some, and I hope some of the definitions of these beings has now helped some people be a bit clearer.
You've been listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series. Support local online content and become a financial supporter today at 4CRB.com.